Hi, and welcome to our presentation video. We are Team 10 of the iTrust System Development for this semester. I'm James Wheeler, and I was Team Leader.
I'm Bradsher, and I was Development Leader, and I'll be covering JSP bug fix testing.
My name is Crystal Martin. I was the Quality Leader, and I will be demoing the dependency extension.
My name is Robert Lodico, and I was the Planning Leader. I will be demoing the Deactivate Patient feature.
And later, I'll be showing future enhancements and extensions that we did not do during the semester.
The JSP bug fix. In the past, the request records release form did not have its input sanitized at all. If one entered invalid input, a validation error was raised, which automatically filled the old input values into the form. This meant that one could escape the input tag with an apostrophe and write caret, and then inject any HTML desired, including JavaScript. This could have been exploited, for example, to use a real iTrust installation for a phishing attack without the target ever knowing. This is especially important for this form as personal sensitive data is entered every time it is used, and this form may potentially be used often. To counter this, we improved the request records release form by sanitizing all previously entered inputs and reloading the form on validation errors. To implement this, we create a new sanitizer class that contains a sanitization function, which efficiently handles all possible HTML tokens or strange combination of characters such as string escapes. This request records release form calls the sanitization function for every old input value pulled from the request when reloading the page. Let's demonstrate this now on the old system. If I insert this line of code into the old form, you'll see that I can simply change the background color of the page. Well, that's a silly example, but let's go back for a minute and look at what happens when I enter this line of code. It appears that nothing happened. So let's put in some personal information in these lines, like so. And let's see what happens when I click submit. You'll see when I click submit that the last name entered is now on the Google search page. I have successfully emulated a very basic phishing scheme that if you look at the URL or the page itself of the form, it appeared we were on the real release system, and in fact we could have even operated under the certificate of the real system. But I was able to push the request to a foreign page using simply a faulty request. This is obviously a classic phishing exploit that would be entirely undetectable to the end user, except that they of course would have had to have followed an external link to the site. Unfortunately, real users will happily do this. Now let's see what happens when we do this on the fix page. I'll enter the same thing again, the background color example. And you'll see that it simply stated that the form values entered are invalid, and in the exact same form as before, just in case in some distant future there is a person with carrots in their name.
The iTrust enhancement that I will be demoing for you today is the extension of the patient dependency system. This functionality was first seen with the records release, where a representative could request and view the records of their dependents. We extended this so now that a representative could also change the demographics of their dependents. This is very useful since dependents do not have full patient privileges and cannot actually log into the system to review or edit their records. This would be useful if the dependent's contact information was updated and their doctors need to be able to reach them, or if there were immediate changes to their medical history that had to be made that only their representative could add to their records. Now for the demonstration. After logging in as one of the patients, you get to their home page and select My Demographics. Now, to actually use this enhancement, you must log in as a patient that currently has dependents. And while it won't affect the appearance or usability or the demographics page or of the overall system, if you are logged in as a patient with no dependents, The only information that you will be able to view is the information of the patient currently logged in. Now, on the current demographics page, you should see all the information for the current patient. After clicking on the drop-down box in the corner, which shows the list of all the current dependents that are linked to this specific patient, and clicking on a name, and then clicking switch, it should show that the new information on the screen is the information of the dependent. Now, also pay attention to the fact that up in the right-hand corner over here, the name of the original patient you logged in as is still showing. This is because when you're editing a patient's information, it does not actually log in as the dependent patient. Now, let's change some fields to demonstrate the functionality. Now I've changed the address fields and the phone number fields, and after scrolling down the page to the Edit Patient Record button and clicking, the page is refreshed and it now shows information successfully updated, as well as a small message that shows the name of the patient that we've currently worked with. Now, this is how we were checking whether or not that the information was successfully updated in the system, as well as not affecting the original patient's information. We went back to the original patient, and after clicking the switch button, we would go over the patient's information, which shows that none of the information has been edited, which is exactly the result that we wanted. And to make sure that the dependence patient has been updated, we click back to them, and it shows that the address field has been updated with the previous information that I just entered, and that the phone number has also been updated with the previous information, which means the changes were made to the system as well as to the page, which is also the result that we wanted. Now, the process of this wasn't extremely difficult. Before, it just allowed to see one patient's information at a time, which was the patient that was currently logged in. One of the bugs that we had to deal with was, after changing a dependent's information, when viewing the drop-down box, both patients were currently listed as the dependent patient, which isn't what we wanted. After adding in some functionality to the underlying JSP page, this bug was fixed, which is the end result that we needed for this project. Thank you very much.
I am demonstrating the use case 61 deactivate patient feature of iTrust. So to start off with, we authenticate into iTrust as an HCP. The next step is to navigate down into patient audit. You then click the deactivate button under deactivate a patient. You type in an MID or a name. I will use MID2 for Andy Programmer, which is part of the test data, standard test data. There is a prompt that pops up asking you to confirm. So you type in I understand in all capitalized letters and click the deactivate patient button. It will show up patient successfully deactivated. Then to test this, you can navigate down to patient information under patient info. Type into again. Nothing shows up because it, by default, does not display deactivated patients, so you have to click Show Deactivated Patients. Click the button. Scroll down, you will see Patient is deactivated, cannot edit. There would be an edit button in this location otherwise. Next, you can go to Representatives. Cannot edit representatives. This patient is deactivated. Please return and select a different patient. So click back. There is also the group report for deactivated patients. So you click deactivated, as a demographic filter. Continue. Since we're looking for only deactivated patients, you click under the drop-down show only deactivated, generate report, and since we only have one deactivated user in the standard data, only one row will show up. Next, we have schedule a deactivated patient appointment. So again, 2, nothing shows up because it's deactivated. Show deactivated patients. 2, cannot schedule appointment. Deactivated patient dependency is located under patient info as well. Again, typing in 2, clicking show deactivated patients. 2, cannot change dependency as patient is deactivated. Next, edit patient list under telemedicine. 2, show deactivated patients. Click cannot edit list as patient is deactivated. Next, we will demo logging in as a deactivated patient. With the sample users, it automatically tries to log in. Failed login attempts is now 1. Because the patient is deactivated, there's no other error message. Next, we try and log in as the HCP again. We can, as expected. We go down to patient audit to reactivate patients as well as deactivate them. We just have to click deactivate to navigate to the menu for it. Under deactivate patients, we have 1. Indie programmer with the MID 2. Click reactivate. Again, there is an I understand prompt, and you click reactivate patient. Patient successfully reactivated. With the original deactivate patient feature, there were multiple issues. If you go in and deactivate a patient, you can select the patient, you can deactivate them, and the patient is successfully deactivated. However, when you go back and try to reactivate a patient, there's no feature to do that, and you cannot search for deactivated patients. Under the all patients list, you can go in and edit. However, the patient is deactivated, cannot edit, does display. You can, however, document an office visit without any issues, which you should not be able to do since the patient associated with this new office visit is deactivated. You cannot schedule an appointment, however, that part of the system does recognize it. And under a group report, you can search for deactivated patients, and it does work. Most of the deactivated patient improvements were related to being able to access things. However, basic features like locking deactivated patients out does work. Prior to our update, you can access the patients. However, you cannot. The representation feature does not work. It should completely lock you out of this, which is one more improvement that we made. In addition, we should not be able to access the edit patient list under telemedicine. This is one more issue that we have fixed. Also, patient dependency originally did not lock you out. That is also fixed.
So far we have demoed what our team has developed. Now I'll end the video with possible changes that future teams can work on. Earlier, Chris went over the JSP bug fix in the request records release. During our development, it was discovered that the Find Expert page has a similar issue. So if we go over to the Find Expert page and leave everything correct, it should show up like this. Now, if we type in an apostrophe, it blanks out the rest of the page. This is an obvious bug and can be a possible fix for future teams. My fellow team member, Crystal, ran over the dependency extension for my demographics. There are several other pages that could have this extension applied. Such pages are My Lab Procedures, My Providers, Immunization Report, Billing Statements, View My Appointments. All these pages can use the dependency extension because sometimes it is necessary for a representative to change information and view information for their dependents. Plenty of other changes that can be made for aesthetic purposes, such as same table format, color schemes, and text format. Pages tend to vary too much, which can make iTrust seem messy. I will show you some of these pages. Most of these pages use table formats and the color format to match, but some of these pages do not match. Here are some example pages that do match. View My Appointments, however, does not use the same table format. There are plenty of other pages that do not use the same format and title schemes, so iTrust can be a little bit messy. Many changes can be made behind the scenes that do not directly affect the web interface. Such changes could be JSPs using action classes correctly, and more JSPs implementing a servlet design. This will make the coding in the background of iTrust less messy and easier to develop with. Test data is also very messy and unorganized. For better practice, there should be test data for at most every use case. There should also be very limited standard data, since every new use case potentially adds more data. This can make test data very complex, and we need to simplify it for better test purposes. These are just some of the changes that future teams could work on. Hopefully the changes we have made this semester has made progress into the iTrust development. Our team appreciates your time for watching this video. Thank you.